One of the most common jobs on a distribution system is setting or replacing a wooden utility pole. For example, as a distribution system is expanded to reach new customers, it's necessary to install new poles to support conductors and other equipment. Additionally, as customer loads increase, heavier equipment may be required to keep up with the demand. It may be necessary to replace the existing poles with larger poles capable of supporting the additional weight. Also, poles are like any other type of equipment. Over time, they can deteriorate or become damaged. This can cause them to be structurally unsafe. When a pole is unsafe, it often must be replaced. Installing a utility pole safely requires advanced planning, an ability to use several types of equipment, and a knowledge of rigging to lift and control heavy loads. In this program, we'll take a look at several pole installation jobs to see how poles can be safely installed with either manual or power equipment. In the first job, a digger derrick will be used to install a pole on a new feeder. Then we'll watch as a crew manually installs a new pole next to an existing pole, transfers the energized lines from pole to pole, and removes the old pole. Finally, a crew will manually install a new pole in the same hole as the old pole using what is commonly referred to as the cut and kick method. As with any job, the actual equipment and techniques used will vary from company to company and with the actual conditions found in the field. Be sure to check with your company for the specific methods of pole installation and replacement used on your system. To begin with, let's take a look at 3 different methods of digging a hole so that a pole can be installed. A hole can be dug using a digger derrick, a portable power hole digger, or manual digging tools. Of the 3 methods, the digger derrick is often fastest for digging the hole. The digger derrick can also be used to lift and manipulate the pole during the installation. Let's follow along as a digger derrick is used to dig a hole for a pole installation on a new feeder line. During the tailgate session, the crew plans how the job will be done and crew assignments are made. 2 of the men will dig the holes while the rest of the crew will work on the equipment that has to be installed on the poles once they've been set. The location for each pole has been marked with a stake, so the crewman visually checks each location to determine where to position the truck and notes any obstacles that may cause problems. The type of soil that he will be digging in is also checked to determine whether the holes can be effectively dug by the digger derrick. This soil looks like it will be easy to dig and will support the poles once the holes are backfilled. He also makes sure that the proper local authorities have been notified so that any existing underground utilities have been identified and located. In this case, the existing utilities were located and marked with paint earlier. Next, he needs to determine the size hole that is needed for the first pole. Let's look at a simplified illustration to see how the size of the hole is determined. The crewman knows that the pole is 40 feet long. The rule of thumb for the depth of the hole required in normal soil is 10% of the length of the pole plus 2 feet. So in this case, the depth of the hole should be 10% of 40 feet, which is 4 feet, plus 2 feet. That would make the total depth of the hole 6 feet. Next, the diameter of the hole has to be determined. While there's no fixed rule of thumb here, there are several guidelines that are helpful. The hole has to be wide enough to accept the butt of the pole and still allow room to tamp and backfill around the pole. However, the hole shouldn't be too wide. This would require extra backfilling to be done. It could also weaken the support for the pole since backfilled soil is normally softer than undisturbed soil. The crewman measures the butt of the pole. Its diameter is about 12 inches. He knows that the width of the tamp that he will use is 2 inches. The diameter of the hole must be at least 12 inches plus twice the width of the tamp, or 4 inches. So the diameter of the hole should be at least 16 inches wide. This digger derrick has 2 augers, a larger auger installed on the digger mechanism and a smaller auger stowed on the truck. The larger auger has a diameter of 18 inches, which is just a little larger than the ideal diameter. The other auger is clearly too small. Since the larger auger is close to the size needed, he will use it to dig the hole. The operator positions this digger derrick so that the hole can be dug off of the back of the truck. This allows the operator the greatest visibility of the job site and any crewman working on the ground. Once the truck is in position, it can be stabilized and leveled using the truck's outriggers. The operator maneuvers the boom into the right position to begin digging the hole. Since this is the first job of the day, he checks each of the boom controls as he is maneuvering. The digger mechanism and auger are normally carried in a stored position on the boom. He lowers the boom so that a man on the ground can remove the manual locking pin. Making sure that the crewman is in the clear, the operator raises the boom to a 45-degree angle and makes sure that the derrick winch line has plenty of slack so that it won't restrict the boom as it is moved out. Then he lowers the digger mechanism and auger into position. The man on the ground uses standard hand signals to guide the operator as he positions the auger over the first stake. The stake is removed and the auger is lowered to the ground. The crewman uses hand signals to help the operator position the auger so that it is straight up and down before the hole is begun. The operator begins digging. As he digs, he applies a downward pressure with the boom to help force the auger into the ground. Since this ground is relatively easy to dig, the operator can use a faster rotation speed on the auger and a light pressure on the boom. After digging down a few feet, the auger is filled with dirt. The operator raises the auger out of the hole so that he can remove the dirt from the auger's flanges. The man on the ground continues to guide the operator so that the auger stays in a vertical position. As the auger digs down, it's necessary to extend the boom in order to keep the auger straight. The operator continues to dig in stages, stopping periodically to clean the auger. The digging is continued until the hole is 6 feet deep. Then the auger is restowed on the boom and the crewmen prepare to set the pole. Setting the pole with a digger derrick will be covered later in the program. When holes are dug for pole installation, all locations may not be accessible to a digger derrick or other truck-mounted digging equipment. In these cases, a smaller, portable power hole digger may be used. Farther along the feeder line being installed, several of the poles will have to be set in areas where the digger derrick won't fit. A portable power digger is available and will be used instead. The crewman realizes that the diameter of the auger on the portable unit is smaller than needed to dig the holes. He'll dig the basic hole with the auger and then enlarge it to the right size using manual digging tools. This portable power digger is self-propelled. It has a gasoline engine on one end and a boom and digger mechanism on the other end. The gasoline engine is used to power the unit so that it can be moved to the location where it will be used, and also to power the hydraulic system that operates the boom and digger mechanism. Once the digger is in position, its outriggers are swung out and the screw jacks in their ends are extended to the ground. The digging mechanism is not permanently attached to the boom, so it needs to be manually hung from the boom and connected to the hydraulic system with the available hoses. Once the power of the gasoline engine is switched from the power train to the hydraulic system, the unit is ready to dig. The portable power digger operates in a manner similar to that of the digger derrick. It is used to dig in stages until the hole is at the correct depth. Once the hole is completed, the digging mechanism is stowed and the crewmen prepare to enlarge the hole manually. Since the dirt is fairly easy to dig, the crewman will use a set of long-handled shovels called a spoon and a spade to enlarge the diameter of the hole. The spade has a flat blade and is used to chip away the dirt from the sides of the hole until it is the correct diameter for its entire depth. Periodically, the spoon is used to scoop the loose dirt out of the hole. Any rocks that are encountered are pried out of the sides of the hole using a digging bar. In inaccessible areas, manual digging tools like these may have to be used to dig the entire hole. Well, in this part of the program, we discussed the requirements for the hole needed to install a utility pole. We also saw several methods of digging the hole. In the next part of the program, we'll see a pole installed using a digger derrick. For now, read the material on digging in your text and answer the questions. If you have any problems, see your instructor. Once the hole has been dug, the crew can proceed to set the pole. There are many ways to set poles, but they all require that the pole be rigged to be lifted and manipulated. This allows the crew to maneuver the pole so that it can be placed in the hole, lined up with other poles, and backfilled. In this part of the program, we'll watch as the crew sets 2 poles on the new feeder line with the digger derrick. The first pole will be set in an open area, free of obstacles. The second pole will have to be set around existing energized lines. Keep in mind that the methods we'll see are only meant as examples. Each pole setting job will be a little different. You'll have to take into consideration your company's procedures, the specific requirements of the job site, and the equipment available so that each job can be done safely. Well, let's join the crew as they prepare to set a pole in an open area. The crew has just completed digging this hole so that the truck will not have to be moved in order to install the pole. The pole was delivered to the work site and laid on the ground next to the hole. The balance point of the pole needs to be determined so that it can be rigged properly. The diameter of a pole is normally greater on the butt end than at the top. This makes a pole butt heavy. So the balance point is usually below halfway along the pole. A sling is attached to the pole at the approximate balance point, and the winch line from the digger derrick is attached to the sling. The derrick is used to lift the pole several feet off the ground. Since the area is free from energized equipment and other obstacles, the pole can be framed out with a crossarm and other equipment before it is raised into position. This will save the crew time later. Once the pole is framed, it's lowered back to the ground. The weight of the crossarm has changed the balance point of the pole, so the sling is repositioned to a point just above the new balance point. The crewman makes sure that the rope comes through the eye of the sling on the top side of the pole. Otherwise, the pole would rotate as soon as the pole was lifted until the eye of the sling was on top. The pole is lifted, and the crewman tests the balance of the pole to make sure that it's a little butt heavy so that it will rotate to a vertical position as it is raised. The crew is now ready to set the pole. The operator opens the jaws on the hydraulic pole grabbers at the end of the boom and adjusts their angle so that they're ready to receive the pole. The pole is slowly raised with the winch line. As the pole goes up, it begins to swing into a vertical position because it is slightly butt heavy. The man on the ground helps to guide the pole and stabilize it. When the pole is fully vertical, the pole grabbers are closed to maintain control of the pole so that it's prevented from moving farther. The butt of the pole is now directly over the hole. The operator lets out on the winch line, and the man on the ground helps guide the butt of the pole so that the pole is lowered into the hole. The operator is careful to make sure that the top end of the pole isn't able to slip below the pole grabbers. This could cause him to lose control of the pole. Once the pole is at rest on the bottom of the hole, the pole grabbers are used to stabilize it. The boom of the digger derrick is used to move and hold the pole, while a crewman on the ground observes the pole and uses hand signals to indicate the direction in which the pole needs to be moved. He checks the pole from at least 2 different positions 90 degrees apart to make sure that the pole is plumb. Then a crewman checks the alignment of the pole's gain with that of other poles downline to make sure that the cross arm will be perpendicular to the feeder lines. He decides that the pole will have to be rotated a little in a clockwise direction. He will use a tool called a cant hook to turn the pole. This cant hook has a head with a hook and a wooden handle. The head and hook form a set of jaws that grip the pole when pressure is put on the handle in one direction. This allows the cant hook to be used as a lever to rotate the pole. The crewman rotates the pole clockwise. Periodically, he steps back to check the pole's alignment. If he goes too far in one direction, he turns the cant hook over and rotates the pole back in the other direction. When the crew is satisfied with the alignment, they'll use the digger derrick to plumb or straighten the pole before backfilling the hole. When the pole is both plumb and square, the digger derrick is secured and the crewmen begin backfilling the hole. When backfilling, it's important for the dirt to be compacted so that the pole is firmly held in place and to avoid the dirt settling later. The crewmen backfill a layer of dirt several inches deep, then tamp that layer of dirt, firmly compressing it before adding more dirt. The backfilling and tamping is continued until the entire hole is filled. The crew completes the installation of this pole by adding any necessary guying before going on to the next pole to be installed. Now that we've seen an example of a basic pole setting job, we'll follow along as another crew prepares to set a pole around existing energized lines. Remember, specific procedures that you'll see, like grounding the new pole, may vary between companies. Be sure to always follow your company's guidelines. The basic method they'll use to set this pole is similar to the one that we just saw. However, there are two additional considerations that the crew will have to deal with: obstacles and energized equipment. First, this work site has several trees and an existing utility pole that will affect the raising and maneuvering of the new pole. There is also an energized three-phase pole-top feeder that may come in contact with the pole during the job. Because of the energized phases, the crew will not frame out the pole until after it is set. A wooden utility pole is not considered to be a good insulator because of the preservatives and possible contaminants. Therefore, contact with any energized source may also energize the pole. Cover gear is used on the phases and the system neutral to insulate the work area. Additionally, this company requires that the truck and the new pole both be grounded to the system neutral, and all crewmen handling the pole wear personal rubber protective gear. After they determine the pole's balance point, the pole is rigged to the winch line and moved over to the hole. The pole is lowered onto blocks so that the sling can be moved above the balance point. Additionally, the top of the pole is covered with sections of special cover gear called pole guard to insulate it. The pole guard will prevent the top of the new pole from accidentally contacting the energized conductors as it's raised into position. The crew begins raising the pole. As it's lifted, a crewman wearing rubber protective gear maneuvers the pole around any obstacles. Once the pole is in place, it's aligned and plumbed, and the hole backfilled as before. Well, in this part of the program, we saw two examples of poles being set on a new feeder line with a digger derrick.